field, live from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. This is the 2021 SEC Championship Game Preview Show.
And Alabama has come from nowhere to defeat the Auburn Tigers in multiple overtimes.
Presented by Alfa Insurance. For auto, home, and life insurance, call Alfa. Also brought to you by Toyota. Visit your local Toyota dealer today. Toyota, let's go places. And by Cook's Pest Control and Centricon, the unbeatable combination for termite protection. Now, the 2021 SEC Championship Game Preview Show. Here is your host, the voice of the Tide, Eli Gold.
Good evening, everybody. And my goodness, have you all caught your breath yet after Saturday? Was that an amazing performance? The Tide coming back to win it in 4 overtimes. Just a remarkable finish at Auburn. We'll talk all about that this evening and a whole lot more on the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. Coach Nick Saban joins us here in about a half hour. We'll be opening up with our special guest, Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News. He'll be with us in just a moment or so. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to throw a question in our direction, 877-202-BAMA. That's 877-202-2262. It was unbelievable. You never count out the Alabama Crimson Tide. You never do. And, of course, here's a championship team that finds itself on the canvas, and they found a way to get up like a heavyweight and just throw that one haymaker to end things in the 4th overtime. And it's one of those games that's going to go down in everybody's memory banks forever. I don't think there's any question about that. But that's just part of what brought us to where we are today, the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. It's presented by Alfa Insurance, Toyota, and Cook's Pest Control. And remember, folks, there's all sorts of stuff going on campus athletically. Best way for you to keep up with everything Alabama is with the Roll Tide mobile app presented by Bancorp South. It's available at the App Store and Google Play. Just download the Roll Tide mobile app now. It is, my favorite words, absolutely free. So do check it out. We invite you now to stay tuned. More of the 2021 SEC Championship Game Preview Show. We're live from Baumhauer's Victory Grill, the official watch party location of the Crimson Tide. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. everybody. The 2021 SEC Championship Game Preview Show is on the air. This segment of the show being brought to you by Everwood Treatment Company. Everwood, the official treated lumber of Alabama athletics. Everwood is wood treated right. Great to have this gentleman join us. He is a first-time visitor on this show, but he's normally here enjoying some of Baumhauer's finest items off the menu. We are speaking of Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News. Good to have you with us, sir. How are you?
Oh, man, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You have had the unique perspective of being a beat writer or a sports reporter in Boston, where obviously fans are as devoted to their franchises as they are anywhere. And you're here now a beat writer covering the University of Alabama for the Tuscaloosa News. Are the fan bases that you have written for and the ones you're writing for now very much the same, albeit obviously different in many ways?
Yeah, I think there's unique characteristics that you find everywhere you go, and I will say Southern hospitality is much more a thing here than it is in Boston, obviously. Yeah. So, but the passion, I mean, that's, as a sports writer, what you want more than anything else is to be able to write for people who want to know everything they can about the team, want to talk about the team, and really be in a place where no matter where you go, someone probably has an opinion about the team. And so that's a place like Tuscaloosa, and definitely something that I want to do when I'm a sports writer, just be in an environment like that.
Exactly. And of course, up in Boston, you had the Red Sox fans. They're a crazy bunch. The Bruin fans are as loyal as anyone. The Celtics fans, the same thing. And obviously the Patriot fans, although not right in Boston, still very. You've really had an interesting bird's eye view to some of the very best sports franchises in America.
Yeah, the Patriot fan base is something else. Getting to be there, training camp, it was covering that, and there were some fans that were lined up at 4 a.m. to get in to just have a chance at getting Tom Brady's autograph.
Really?
So the passion there was unparalleled, and something that was pretty cool to see, and Mac Jones is getting the experience right now.
Exactly. It's great to see Mac doing as well as he is. Nick Kelly is with us from the Tuscaloosa News. Nick, let's talk a moment or 12 about a friend of ours who we just lost, Cecil Hurt, and you had the chance to work with him, travel with him, learn from him. Tell me what you learned most from Cecil Hurt.
Yeah, well, I like to say that it was like a big masterclass for me, just working with him every single day, sports journalism-wise. And
yep.
One of the biggest things I took away from him is that he told me something to the effect of, everyone knows more than you do. And I think that humility was a key thing that he brought to every conversation.
Right.
And helped him just learn. He was a very curious person. And I think that's what a lot of people respected about him, is that even though he was someone who knew a lot, he covered this beat for almost 40 years, he knew a lot, but he didn't act like that, and he approached every conversation like he had something to learn. And I think that a lot of us can take stuff away from that, whether it's in journalism or just in day-to-day life.
Yeah. There were a lot of things he did so well as a wordsmith. The economy of vocabulary when you're dealing with column inches. Is that something you can learn from a guy like Cecil, or is that a God-given talent?
I think it's some of both, but I think he had a lot of God-given ability, and just the way that just he could turn a phrase. I mean, I don't have that just ability to just come out of nowhere, just have such a brilliant idea or line, or some of he would put out on Twitter, but others he would just fire off in the press box, and you get to hear him firsthand. And so, yeah, just a very witty guy, a very funny guy, and the thing that I loved most about his process is he wrote all this just beautiful prose and columns on an iPad, and yeah. I could never do that, but here he was typing away on an iPad, and he wrote some great stuff from a touchscreen. So I had a lot of respect for that.
We're visiting with Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News. We're getting back to your career. I'm a hockey guy initially, and there you were at a very tender young age covering the Tampa Bay Lightning. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was sitting in class at the University of Missouri, where I went to school, and
a great journalism school.
We'd like to think so, at least. But I was sitting in class, and I got a message from the sports editor of the Tampa Bay Times saying, "Hey, how would you like to drop out of class and come cover the Lightning?" I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't. Within a week, I had moved down to Tampa, Florida, moved my classes online, and was covering the NHL at age 20. So it was quite indoctrination, just even forget journalism, just to move somewhere completely different. I'm from the Midwest, move somewhere completely different, and just be able to take in just a totally different sports atmosphere was a great point for my growth just as a young man.
How did the guy in Tampa Bay read your work that was being written and done in Columbia, Missouri?
I had reached out to him. We had gone on a vacation in Clearwater. I just asked him to grab breakfast or lunch, and so we just briefly met. And so that's just kind of, as you know, in this business, you meet people and you see people on social media and kind of follow it that way. And he needed someone who could cover hockey, and me being from Minnesota, I knew a little bit about it, and it was a natural fit. So. And
of course, another natural fit is here you are at the University of Alabama, a school that yielded, of course, one guy from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, Joe Namath, and your family had ties to Beaver Falls, correct?
Yeah, I heard all kinds of Joe Namath stories growing up, just because my grandpa went to high school with him, and so really? I get to hear stories about Joe, and there was just all kinds of things about Bear Bryant, even when he came to visit, recruiting, and so it was fun to hear that, and then to be able to tell my grandpa that I was moving to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to cover Alabama, where Joe Namath went to school.
Yeah. Visiting again with Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News, how difficult of a transition was it to come to the University of Alabama to cover the Tide for the hometown paper? Did you have pterodactyls flying around in your stomach, let alone butterflies? What was it like?
Yeah, it was a bit of a leap, but that's what I have Cecil Hurt to thank for a lot, because he really helped bridge that gap for me. Being someone moving from the Midwest to Alabama, he was someone who just was always one phone call away. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times that we talked on the phone and that he would have advice, or he would steer me in the right direction, or just different ways that Cecil helped me out. And so, I mean, I can't thank him enough really for all that he did to help make that transition as smooth as possible.
How easy was it for you to be accepted within the athletic department? I know I came from New York umpteen years ago, and it took me quite a while to be accepted by a lot of the listeners. How easy or difficult, and how quick did that happen for you?
Yeah, I think it's just something where I'm not going to try to act like I'm from here, because I'm not. Yeah. And so I'm just going to try to be myself and approach it from that perspective. And hopefully that honesty is accepted, and I think it has been in some regards. And so I think it's just, that's all you can do is be yourself. And that was one thing that Cecil really taught me too. He was the kind of person who, he wasn't ever trying to put on a face, or he wasn't trying to wow people with just the way he just entered a room or something. He wasn't trying to bring attention to him. He was just himself, and I think people respected that authenticity about him, and I certainly did, and I think that's why people flocked to him the way they did.
No question about that. We're coming right back. We've got a lot more tonight. This is the SEC Championship Game preview show. Coach Nick Saban will be with us at the top of the hour. Right now, we're spending time with Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News, and we will resume right after these messages here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome back, everybody. The 2021 SEC Championship Game Preview Show. This segment presented by Cook's Pest Control and Centricon, the unbeatable combination for termite protection. Of course, part of this show each and every week is our announcement of the APS Performer of the Week. And this week, again, it is Alabama's Will Anderson, who was selected as the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Another time, he's closing in on a handful of awards on that category. His play against the Auburn Tigers on Saturday was outstanding. He was double-teamed. He was triple-teamed. Yet he led all defenders with a career-high 12 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a sack and a half. This is the 9th time that a Bama player has won the honor this season. So that is your APS Performance of the Week for all your residential and commercial foundation, waterproofing, pest control, termite, and lawn services. Go to alabamaprofessional.com. Nick Kelly is with us from the Tuscaloosa News. Do you ever run out of adjectives trying to describe Will Anderson?
It's tricky. I mean, he keeps pulling off things that I just wouldn't expect him to pull off. I mean, he keeps one-upping himself, and just the ability for him to wreck an offensive plan is remarkable. I mean, it really is.
And when you've got the other team game planning against somebody, that does translate to be an advantage for you somewhere in that combination.
Yeah, he's not a secret in any way, and so teams know who he is, and so that's where it's so impressive the way that he can find his way through offensive linemen and make a lot of them look pretty silly as he blows past them.
Of course, this weekend, line play is going to be a story for the game. I think on both sides, Alabama's got to protect their quarterback.
Yeah, it's real important to give Bryce time because this defense, top to bottom, has great players in every single position, every single level. And so it's going to be really key for the offensive line to have a great game because that Georgia front is something else.
You know, you read these numbers, as I did during the week doing my homework, and you almost think they're typographical errors. I mean, the numbers are that bizarre, that skewed in Georgia's favor.
Yeah, I think the stat, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I think 8 guys have at least 5 tackles for loss on that defense, which is just crazy. I mean, it's so well distributed because you might see 1 or 2 guys on a team normally have, okay, this guy's got a high number of tackles for loss, maybe 2, 3 guys, but to have that many that have that solid number, I mean, there's not necessarily one guy you can key on.
And giving up less than 7 points a ball game. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, I think it's 6.92 is a remarkable number to not even give up a touchdown every game.
It's remarkable, it is. We're coming right back. We've got a lot more coming your way. Coach Saban will be here at the top of the hour. You're tuned to the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. We're coming your way live tonight, as always, from Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. Back in a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome back, everybody. The SEC Championship Game Preview Show is on the air from Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. This is our final Thursday night get-together. There'll be no show next week, and then starting on Monday night, the 13th, Roger Hoover will be here taking over on Monday evenings, talking basketball and other sports around the university. So this is our final Thursday night get-together here at Baumhauer's, and certainly we've enjoyed the season. Hopefully you have as well. The segment of tonight's show is presented by My Eye Doctor, with 20 locations to make your next eye appointment convenient. Don't miss a single play this season. Eye care and eyewear really are better together at My Eye Doctor. Go to myeyedr.com to learn more. We're spending time now with Nick Kelly. He is tonight's media guest, presented by CB&S Bank. Bank anywhere at any time with CB&S Bank's digital solutions. Managing your finances has never been so easy. Quickly, how much writing will you do both leading up to Saturday's game and in the aftermath? How many columns, column inches, stories, what have you, will you have to crank out?
Quite a few. Have had already, several stories this week. We're talking 10 plus. Because there's no shortage of things to write about and no shortage of matchups to talk about. So there's plenty of fodder to fill those inches.
But do you ever look at the computer screen and just can't come up with something to write?
Man, it feels like every day, unfortunately, but somehow we find a way. That's the magic of the business, is that somehow, even when you got that blank white page in front of you, you manage to fill it somehow.
We're coming right back. We are continuing here at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Alabama getting set to meet the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday. There'll be a lot of keys to victory driven by your local Toyota dealer. Visit your local Toyota dealer or Toyota.com and take advantage of the amazing deals on their full line of vehicles. No matter your destination, Toyota goes with you. Toyota, let's go places. Back in a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome back, everybody, as we work our way through the final stages of this first half hour of the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. I'm Eli Gold. Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News is our special media guest. Tonight's show being presented to you in part by Alfa Insurance, Toyota, and Cook's Pest Control. Right now, why don't we pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Welcome back, everybody. When we return here in just a short while, Coach Nick Saban is going to be with us. We'll talk all about the SEC championship game coming up this weekend against the Georgia Bulldogs. We would love to hear from you. Our phones will be opening up toll-free at 877-202-BAMA. That's 877-202-2262. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to hear from you. So don't go away. If you do have to leave us for whatever reason, remember, we'll be on the air Saturday at noon from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium with a 3 o'clock Central Time kickoff for the SEC championship game. But now we invite you to stick around. Coach Saban joins Nick Kelly and myself right after this on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
It is a much-awaited matchup between two of the SEC's proudest universities, the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs. For the top-ranked Bulldogs, this has been a magical season, while for the Crimson Tide, a one-loss season has them in a rare underdog role entering Saturday's game. In the SEC, it just means more. And this week is another classic example of how true that motto is. The SEC Championship Game Preview Show is live from Tuscaloosa, and it puts the Tide and the Bulldogs on center stage. Next, on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Steps up, looks long. Jameson's got the man beat. He makes the grab at the 30. He's to the 20. He's to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Alabama, 79 yards. Pressure off the edge. They throw. Robinson near side. Cuts to the middle of the field. See ya. Bye-bye. Brian Robinson, touchdown, Alabama, 51 yards. Rodgers throws, looks near side, hold up, intercepted Alabama. Pulled down by Jordan, battle down the right sideline. He's going to go to the goal line. Does he step out of bounds? No, he's in for a touchdown.
Now back to the 2021 SEC Championship Game Preview Show, live from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, with your host, Eli Gold.
Welcome back, everybody. Coach Nick Saban will be joining us here in just a moment, presented by Alfa Insurance. He now makes his way in and gets a nice hand, as per usual, from the coaches. He'll wave at Miss Terry as they pass one another here as he heads to the stage, and the coach is going to get himself situated. We'd love to hear from you. 877-202-BAMA. 877-202-BAMA. That is the phone number, and Coach Nick Saban settling in. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am well. Listen, allow me to go in a different direction before we talk football. We had a member of the Alabama coaching staff today, our softball coach, Patrick Murphy. He was named a member of the 2021 class of the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. And, he has had a magnificent career, and he really is a special guy. He really is.
No question. I mean, anytime you have consistency in a program like he's had, he's done a phenomenal job here, developing, continuing to be successful, won a lot of big games, won a World Series. I'll be honest with you, I never had much interest in women's softball, but I watch every game I can watch.
Exactly.
And I watched them last year when they're in the tournament. I think he's done a phenomenal job, and he's a good person, really good human being, sets a great example, really good leadership. And I think a lot of the young ladies that are on his team have done a lot of good things in the community as well and represented the university in a first-class way. It used to be, as coaches, we'd get evaluated on two things. Not just how many games we won, but also how many winners we produced.
Exactly,
And now it's just about how many games you won. So he's done both of those things extremely well.
Yeah, and I was shocked, to be honest, to find out that he hadn't even been in the Hall of Fame yet. He certainly has been deserving. So, Murph, if you're listening, we all offer you our congratulations, a well-deserved honor for Patrick Murphy. And, Coach, you, of course, know Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News, joining us for the first time on the show. He's a newbie.
Good. We're glad to have him.
Definitely. Why don't you jump right?
We'll break him in, right?
I was going to say, we'll toss him to the wolves here. Why don't you jump on in with the coach, sir?
Well, I know ESPN had Mike and Mike for a long time, but tonight we got Nick and Nick, so we'll give it a run.
There you go.
But so this Georgia team, it's no secret they're really good on defense. 6.92 points given up per game. I mean, why are they so hard to score against?
Well, they got a really good scheme. I think they're really well coached, and they've got really, really good players. They've really got a dominant front. I don't know if there's anyone in their front seven that's not a draftable player, and I'm talking about really a high draft pick. And they've got a good scheme in the secondary. Nobody's been able to really get to the back end of their team much because the front is so dominant. When you got a 340-pound guy that can dominate the line of scrimmage, you got another couple guys that are really hard to block. The linebackers are really fast. They've got a couple really good pass rushers on the edge. So they're a very, very complete team on defense. They're a complete team all the way around. They're good on offense too. Don't get me wrong. And they've got some really good players, really good skill guys. They run the ball. They have great balance. They're good on special teams. And that's why they've been really, when you look at it, they've been the only team that I've seen. Now, I haven't seen everybody that has really kind of dominated the competition week in and week out of all the schools. Everybody's been a little bit up and down. You think somebody's really good, and then all of a sudden they have a bad game. And struggle a little bit. So they have not. They have been really consistent, but they have a lot of experience on their team. They have an old team. They look like they've got good leadership, and the coaches, Kirby, done a great job recruiting the guys and a great job of developing them.
He really has. Let me ask you a question. I walked into that stadium on Saturday, and I had a full head of black hair. Not really, but I left with gray hair. How do you handle nerves? I mean, you're a human being. Every fan was sitting there at home or in the stadium, and they were gnawing on their fingernails. How do you take care and do all you have to do? You got voices in your headsets talking to you. How do you keep your calm and your cool?
Well, but it's not like that.
Okay.
I mean, you're speaking from a fan's perspective.
Yes.
Okay,
Granted.
so, this is kind of the entertainment business, so fans get very passionate and excited about, winning and losing games, which is the way it's supposed to be. Sure. And I'm happy for that. And I'm happy to be in a profession where we've had an opportunity to have some teams that hopefully have made people please people. But when you're on the sidelines and you're in a game, you're like playing the next play. Okay. I mean, so what's the situation? It's 3rd and 6. What are we calling? What are we calling on defense? What are we calling on offense? And how did we execute it? And if we didn't execute it, what broke down? How are we going to fix it? Write that down. Make sure we correct that with the player when he gets off the field. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like working in the office, like you all have a job and, you go there every day and you're focused on what you got to do. So you're really just totally focused on trying to get the outcome that you want and playing each situation that comes up in the game the best way that you can relative to how you prepare the players to play it. And then when the players come off, if you see, our coaches have them right there. They're going over every play. If we made a mistake on the play, who made a mistake, what they do on offense, what was that blitz, how come we didn't pick it up? Bryce, we need to change the protection to this or that. So you're working for the next play.
You don't have time to think about it.
You're not thinking about the situation of the game. You're not thinking about the outcome. You're not sitting there saying, wow, if we don't win this game, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. You're thinking about what are we going to do so we have a chance to win the game on this play, whether it's 4th and 10 or whether it's a punt return or we're kicking a field goal or whatever it might be. So, our players showed tremendous resiliency and grit in that game and overcame tremendous adversity. And that shows tremendous competitive character on their part. Now, some of the adversity, we created for ourselves, whether we got too many penalties, too many negative plays on offense. We could go on and on of the things that we did well and the things that we didn't do so well. But one thing you can't criticize is, the grit and determination that the players showed in coming back in the game. We had to stop them with 2 minutes to go in the game. Stopped them, got the ball back, and even though we had to go 97 yards, made every play that we needed to make in every situation. And, sometimes, people remember the guy caught the pass on 4th and 10 or the touchdown pass where Saban makes a great catch. But the 2 plays that were the most critical plays where Bryce could have got sacked and we had no timeouts, and he scrambled and got rid of the ball for incomplete passes. Those are the 2 most important plays in that drive from a standpoint of clock management. And I think you got to give him a tremendous amount of credit for understanding situations and being able to make those kind of decisions to get rid of the ball rather than trying to make a play that wasn't there so that we would have time to continue those drives.
I'll tell you, it's the character also, I guess, is what you talk about a lot when you recruit guys. You talk to high school coaches about their character. You're going to have good character people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps and get off the canvas and throw that late game haymaker when necessary.
Yeah, and we moved the ball much better in the second half than the first, and actually had a good drive, fumbled a snap on the field goal, so we didn't get any points out of that. Yeah. But the defense played really, really well all day to keep us in the game. Mm-hmm. And I think then when we got an opportunity, we got things going on offense a little bit, and you got to give the coaches a lot of credit because we made a lot of adjustments in the game so that we could run the ball a little bit better in the second half, protect the quarterback better, and that gave us a chance.
We've got Pee Wee on the phone, Coach. Our first phone call of the night, sponsored by Alabama 811. Remember, folks, always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or online, go to al811.com. Pee Wee, how are things in Grand Bay tonight?
Good this evening, Eli.
Good.
Coach,
good.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Pee Wee. How are you?
I'm doing well. Coach, you had talked about some of the adjustments that y'all made in the second half on the offensive line that gave us a little bit better protection on the right-hand side and enabled us to be able to do a few things like you had said. How had that worked this year? Are you keeping that same player group right there? moving forward into the game this week?
Well, we're trying as many options as possible to try to see what the best circumstance would be for us in this game. We got some injured players, so we've had to move some players around, and it's challenging, but we have to do a better job, up front, being more physical on the offensive line, creating movement on what's going to be some pretty good players. Auburn had a pretty good front too. We didn't get a lot of movement in the running game. So we're going to have to do a better job of scheming the running game. We're going to have to do a better job of being physical up front and getting movement on people, because that's where it all starts. And then, we're uncertain about who the running back's going to be too. So there's lots of challenges. I don't know for sure exactly how we'll end up, depending on how people finish the week, mostly from a physical standpoint.
Gotcha. Pee-wee, thanks for calling. And gentlemen, allow me to stay on the phones for another caller here, because with everything being shown around the world nowadays, Luis is with us from Medellin, Colombia, listening in. Hello, Luis. What's going on, sir?
Sir Eli Gold, Coach.
Hey, Luis. How you doing, man? What time is it there?
How you doing, Coach? Oh,
I'm doing great.
I never thought this would be possible, talking to the coach. Oh, my God, this is unbelievable.
Well, it's great to have you with us. What time is it in Medellin this
Good,
evening?
great. We are 1 hour ahead.
Oh, that's all?
Eastern at the moment.
Okay.
Good.
What's on your mind, sir?
Good. Yeah. Well, well, first of all, it's an honor, this opportunity. I just want to thank you, Coach. Honestly, I'm 53 years old, and what you do with football team is just unbelievable. People lose sight of how difficult and hard things are.
Appreciate that.
Winning is very difficult. Winning is difficult, and winning multiple times, it's even more difficult. People lose sight of that, how hard that is. So I appreciate everything you do, Coach. I had a thousand questions, but I just want to say thank you, and I just hope people understand that what you do is remarkable, and cherish what we have, because I'm a huge Bama fan. I almost jumped from my window here for this past Auburn game. I was going crazy here, and got to cherish what we have, and I love you, Coach. Eli, you're the best one on the radio, and I hope I can have the opportunity to watch live game inside Brian Denny.
Well, hopefully you'll make it here.
Well, we appreciate your kind words, and we have a lot of people that work really, really hard to try to have a really good program, and I'm sure they all appreciate hearing the fact that you think what we've done, because it is hard to win. I think sometimes people take winning for granted and don't respect, winning like you need to, because it is difficult. And I appreciate you understanding, and it's great to hear someone that appreciates what we've been able to do here.
And another classic example, Coach, of the university's mark, that script A. Here's a guy in Medellin, Colombia, and he's keeping up with the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people we have on an international basis that really are fans. Yeah. So it's great.
Well, we're going to come right back. We're going to get back to more of our questions with Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News. We have questions from folks here at Baumhauer's, the SEC Championship Game Preview Show with Coach Saban, presented by Alfa Insurance. Protect your cars, home, life, and business with Alfa. Get a quote or find a local agent at alfainsurance.com. Back in a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
28-yard line of Auburn. Bama going left to right. Bryce gets the snap, knee high. Looks, throws the fade route, near side end zone. Got caught. Touchdown, Alabama. Caught by Ja'Cory Brooks in the end zone. He gets position on the defensive back, Jalen Simpson, and pulls it down for the touchdown with 24 seconds to go in regulation play. What a throw. What a catch. Good Lord, what a day.
Isn't that the truth? Ja'Cory coming up with a big coach. That's a big position for a young player to be in, and he just came up big time.
Yeah, he's really made a lot of progress this year, and getting some opportunities, especially losing J-Mo in the game.
Yeah.
Off special teams with the targeting deal, which was the right call. I'm not complaining about that. If you hit anybody with the crown of your helmet in the head, that's going to be an issue. And but Ja'Cory has really done well this year and has come a long ways. And we certainly need, some of our young players to, continue to step up. And he's certainly done it. And he's a fine young man now. He's played on special teams. Whatever the role we've asked him to do, he showed a lot of maturity for a freshman.
That, of course, is Coach Nick Saban. Next to me, Nick Kelly, the beat writer for the Crimson Tide for the Tuscaloosa News. Nick, jump on in, sir.
So a few weeks ago, you were talking about a turning point in practice for Mac Jones. Has Bryce, from the time he got here as a freshman last year to now, has there been a turning point moment for him, or has he just always been steady, kind of where he's at?
No, I think that once Bryce knew that he was going to be the guy in spring practice, he sort of took the bull by the horns, and he's always been sort of a steady Eddie in terms of he does a great job of preparing, really understands defense, really understands our offense as well, recognizes things quickly. He's very instinctive, very accurate with the ball, and the guy is just he's like having a coach on the field. He really understands a lot of things that we're trying to teach him. I think, this play, for instance, is, people don't understand the details of what goes into this, but it was really a good release by Saban. But the big thing that he did on this play is he stacked the defender. He got on top of the defender, which gave Bryce room to throw the ball over the outside so the guy couldn't defend it. People don't really realize, how important some of those things are and how experienced players, can go execute and do things like that in a critical time of the game.
And, of course, running those routes, look at what Mechie did on that on the game-winning play. He ran a beautiful route.
Yeah, that's one of those, man-to-man beaters you have down there when you're in the low red. You got two choices. You can play. If you drop coverage, guys, you really can't stop the run because you're on the 3-yard line or whatever. And if you play, man-to-man coverage, some of those things are really difficult. And, Mechie did a great job of selling the inside, selling the slant. The guy bit, and he whipped right back out. And but that's not an easy throw either. You got to throw that on time because it's going to happen, very quickly when the guy comes open. But you can see this is really, really well schooled.
Very well schooled.
That's not the first time those guys ever did that either.
Exactly.
It takes a lot of practice.
Amen to that. Coach, we have a visitor straight ahead of us here at the restaurant with a question. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Coach Saban. My name is Tripp, and I'm from Tuscaloosa. Personally, I'd love to thank you and Miss Terry for all you've done for the city of Tuscaloosa and the state of Alabama. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that.
Thank you. I have a defensive question for you.
Yeah.
We know that the Georgia defense has an elite defense up front in the middle. How do you approach challenging our defense to keep that same mentality that we've always had?
Well, I think, that's a really good question because I think it comes from competitive character and personality. It's always been our trademark here to really be physical, really play hard, play with great discipline, and make the other team like, I'm glad the game's over, that kind of mentality. And you have to have a certain kind of player to do that. And we have some. You have to have a critical mass. And I think the longer guys are in the program and the more they develop in the program, because these things aren't developed just on the field. They're developed in the off-season program. Mental toughness and conditioning and, All these things are developed, throughout the course of the year. Explosive power. These things are all developed, with players. And they have to have a great work ethic and a mentality to want to do it and see that it's going to benefit them in terms of how they play and how they can possibly develop a career themselves as players because they improve. And so it really takes a lot for players to develop that mentality. But it's kind of always been our mentality. We lost it a couple years ago. But one of the things that developed that is when we were a running team back in the old days. Remember the old days when we smash mouth? Well, we smash mouth in practice. All right, so the smash mouth made the other side smash mouth too. All right, when you start going no huddle and spread, it's a lot less smash mouth. All right, so the culture of your team can change a little bit. And that's something that we've tried to guard against. And we struggled to play against those kind of teams, back in the day. All right, so we play against those kind of teams better, but we got to continue to have this mental toughness and physical toughness and discipline for everybody to do their job. And it takes a certain kind of competitive character to do that. And I thought our guys demonstrated that last week as well as we have all year. I think they had like 162 yards of total offense, and it was, but we have not been consistent, with that. So hopefully we can build on that. It'll certainly be something that will be beneficial to us down the stretch for sure.
Thank you for your question, sir. Good to have you with us here at Baumhauer's. Let's go back to the phones and head to Huntsville, Alabama. Lane, welcome into the program, sir.
Hey, Coach. Hey, thank you. How are you doing, Coach?
Good, Lane. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well. Coach, I just had a question about the defense here. With the defense playing perhaps its best game in the Iron Bowl, did you see anything in practice that could represent forwarding that momentum into the SEC championship game?
Yeah, the players have done a really good job. I think their confidence level, that probably helped their confidence level a little bit. And they've practiced well this week. Of course, we're going to play against a different caliber of team to some degree in terms of the challenges that they present, to the defense in terms of they got a couple really good runners. The offensive line is, a really good offensive line. The quarterback is very efficient in the way he does things. Number 19, the one tight end, is a great receiver. They've got a couple other really good receivers. So there's a lot of challenges when you play a balanced team, like Georgia is on offense, that, they're going to have to, play to that level and that caliber. I think we're capable. I believe in the players that we have, and I think they're going to have to play with that same kind of mentality to be able to have success against the team this week when we play Georgia.
The guy who dishes the ball out is Stetson Bennett, obviously, and he's had an outstanding career, 12-2 as a starter, 9-0 on the year. What are his strengths?
Well, he's very athletic, and he's very smart. He understands the offense. He gets the ball in the right place at the right time, very quickly, and he gets them in the right play, and he just understands what they're doing. And they have a really good scheme. Their offense is kind of a pro-style offense with a lot of balance, a lot of formations, a lot of personnel groups. So it requires a lot of adjustment for the defense. But he does a really, really good job of executing. And he's athletic enough to extend plays, and he can run and beat you with his feet if you don't pay attention. So he's a really good player. He's improved a lot from when he played against us a year ago.
Exactly.
So you've got some great linebackers on this team, but I want to ask you about a great linebacker you were around a long time ago in your college days, Jack Lambert. You got to play with him. What was it like before he, you got to see him before he had a Hall of Fame career with the Steelers, but what was it like playing with Jack Lambert?
Boy, that's a great name.
Wow. Well, Jack Lambert was it was interesting. I think most people don't know this, but Jack Lambert was a defensive end on our team, and he was going into his junior year. And we had this guy named Bob Bender who was the middle linebacker. So we used to go work these concerts when you were in college. If you got $50 for working security, plus you got in free. I mean, it was the best deal you could ever have. So we go do the Rolling Stones concert in Cleveland. There's about 20 of us on the football team that you wear security deal. You stand on the stage or you stand on the mixer or whatever. You get your $50. You get to see the show free. I mean, it was like the best deal in town. So Bender's on the stage. Mick Jagger comes off. Somebody tries to throw something on him, and Bender knocks it out of his hand. And Jagger calls him in and hires him as bodyguard. He was the Mike linebacker, not Jack Lambert on our team. Right. So Bender doesn't show up for fall camp. So Don James says, well, we got to have a middle linebacker. That's the most important thing. We played a 4-3 defense in those days. So he moved Jack Lambert to middle linebacker, and the guy made like All-American. Yeah. But the biggest thing was is we played Miami of Ohio in Miami for the conference championship. Right. They had the ball on the 1-yard line, 1st and 1 at the 1. Okay. And they had a guy named Bob Hitchens who played in the NFL who was the tailback. And in those days, you just got in the I formation, tried to jump over the pile. We played a 7-diamond defense, and Jack Lambert was the middle backer, and he lined up as deep as the tailback. And they would hand him the ball, and he would jump over the pile, and Jack Lambert would jump up and knock him back 4 times in a row. They never scored. We won the championship. Wow. This is the greatest, individual performance I've ever seen.
So what you're saying is Jack Lambert owes everything he's got to Mick Jagger.
Well, I didn't say that, but it certainly was a circumstance that made it happen.
That's a great story. We're going to come right back. There's lots more to talk about. Big game Saturday, Bama and Georgia, so don't you go away. We're live at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. The SEC Championship Game preview show continues after this on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Finley drops back after being under his center. Running back to his left side. Finley rolls right. Finley is looking. Finley throws. It is knocked down by Alabama. That will be Kool-Aid McKinstry, who knocks it down in the end zone. Young man making a big play right there. We were talking earlier about Jacory and the job he did. Coach Kool-Aid McKinstry made a spectacular stop there defensively for the Tide.
He's been called to duty because Jalen Armour-Davis is injured and did a really good job. He's played some other games this year, and he made a big play in the end zone in that game, but he played pretty well the whole night. And so he's another one of those freshmen, I think, that have made significant progress, improved, have better understanding, because of the experience they've gotten now playing with some confidence. So I think that's really important for us.
Exactly. Let's head out to San Diego, California for our next call. Greg joins us. Hello, Greg. Welcome in.
Hi, Eli. Thanks so much for having me on. Coach,
Yes, sir.
I think I speak for all Tide fans. We can't thank you enough for everything you and the team have done for us and the university.
Well, thank you for
If
saying
I
that. I
understand the
appreciate it.
process, thank you, sir. If I understand the process, it's about internal motivation, not external. It's about staying in the moment and not getting too far ahead of yourselves. How are you, the team, and even Miss Terry doing this week, staying focused as you get ready to hop on that bus to Atlanta tomorrow with everyone behind you, sir?
Yeah, well, I think one of the points that you just made was obviously a very good point, but a point that I made with the team. I think that when you play in games like this, you really have to focus on one play at a time. Can I win this play? Like it has a history and life of its own. And you prepare well and you focus that way all week in practice. So when you go to the game, it's pretty natural for you to try to focus on that particular play and win that play. And the more plays that you can win in a game, and if you can stack some of those plays, then you're going to have good drives. You're going to get some stops on defense, and you're going to have the best opportunity to get the result that you want in the end. So I don't think there's any when you have an opportunity, you have a great challenge because we're not favored in the game, which is a little unusual for most of the players on our team. But it also makes it a special opportunity to do something of significance when you're not favored to win a game. But I think the way you do it is exactly what you said. You have to stay focused on the process, one play at a time. Don't look at the scoreboard. When you pay attention to the scoreboard, it creates nothing but anxiety. Had that question earlier about how I stay focused in the game. It's not just about the scoreboard. The situation means something, but the next play is the most important things. And how many plays can we win and don't have any blinking lights? I always tell the players, we can't have any blinking lights. When you look at a Christmas tree, all lights shine bright, but if there's one light blinking, that takes all your attention. That's all you see. And that when you play in a game like this, you got to have everybody all in, no blinking lights, so that there's no distractions relative to what everybody's sense of purpose is and how they are focusing on those plays, play in and play out. So you make a very good point about the process, not the outcome.
So you guys have played in Atlanta plenty and had a lot of success there. I think it's the number maybe 15 straight you guys have won there. I mean, what is it about Atlanta that you guys have done well or just are prepared well for?
Well, I can't answer that. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we've done in Atlanta prior to this. It's all about what we do when we go back there this time that's going to matter, and how we can do it sort of one play at a time, just like I talked about. But I think the players have had some great challenges in Atlanta. We played in playoff games there. We played in the national championship game there. We played in SEC championship games there. So I think when they go there, they know it's a special sort of occasion. So, and this is a special opportunity as well. So we've had a good week in preparation, and we're looking forward to the opportunity and the challenge.
Amen to that. Matt is on the phone in Daphne, Alabama. Let's head down south in the state. Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. How y'all doing?
Good, Matt.
Good.
So first off, appreciate you taking the call, and everything that the team's doing is great. Mr. Saban, I really appreciate what you do off the field, because just raising some, or not raising some guys, but encouraging the guys in the direction of just being good individuals off the field, super awesome. But I do have a question. And I think I speak for a lot of people. I watch the games and with the family, and they want to actually get in the game. So how do you settle your guys down in a moment where it's just everything's chaotic and it's not going the direction that they want it to go?
Well, I constantly preach to the players, and if you noticed in the game when things weren't going well, there wasn't anybody yelling and screaming at anybody. There wasn't anybody going off on the players. We were trying to keep the players focused on what they needed to do to correct the mistakes that they were making, as well as focus on what's going to happen next. What a lot of players have a difficult time doing is they sort of commiserate over a mistake. A mistake is the best opportunity to learn, and you never want to waste a failing. And so we're trying to get the players just to say, hey, man, we're not saying it's okay you made a mistake, all right, but here's what we have to do to fix it, and this is what we have to do so that we can get the kind of execution that we need. And you being frustrated is not going to help us. Just like when Josh Jobe, he was in perfect position on the fade route, and the guy jumps up and catches the ball. He probably could have intercepted it just as soon as the guy would have caught it. And he was discouraged about that, and I said, hey, next play. Just play the next play. Forget about that. You're playing very well. And then he played a really good game before and after that. And I think that's what you want players to be able to do. You can't, you got to forget the last play and go to the next play, even if you had success on the play before. You can't be frustrated when you don't make plays, and you can't get sort of too exuberant when you do make them. You got to be able to focus on the next play, because that's how you sustain performance. And I think golf is a great. I don't know if you play golf, but it's sort of metaphor of life. You hit a great drive, you're right down the middle. The other guy you're playing against is in the woods, and you think you're going to win the hole, and the next thing he knocks on the green, and you knock it in the water, and you just lost. Even though you were in much better position than he was, but it's the next shot. It's always the next shot. And in golf, that's why they call them traps. That's why they call it hazards. That's why they have all these bad names for places that you can go. And, some old guy in Scotland told me once when I was over there in Ireland playing, and, I got mad because I hit the ball in the high grass or whatever. And he said, that's the difference between you Americans and us people over here in Ireland. When we hit it in the trap, we look at it as an opportunity to do something special to get it out of the trap. When we hit it in the hazard, we look at it as an opportunity to do something special. All right, and you all get mad about it.
That's good. It's an interesting point.
All right, well, you tell me how to hit it out of this high grass, and I'll be glad to look at it as an opportunity.
And he said, "I don't know. I would never have gotten in there in the first place." Is what he probably would have said. But no, that's a great point. Thank you for calling in, Matt. Coach, over here to our left, we have a question at the restaurant. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I was just wondering, what are some key things y'all have been working on this week, without telling too many secrets, to prepare for the game on the weekend? And I also want to say that whatever happens, I'm always behind the Tide 100%. And I want you to know that, and I never gave up last week. And I'm very proud how y'all fought back.
Well, good. I appreciate that.
And how long have you been working on Georgia? How often, even in preparing for other games, have you inserted little stuff to prepare for this game?
Well we don't. We've had difficult games. So the only time that we spent any time on a game like this would have been during the bye week.
Gotcha.
I've never been one to think that was a good way to approach things, like we're going to take time away from preparing for the Auburn game or the LSU game or the Arkansas game, which were all tough games for us, because we're going to play in some other game. So I've never really ever bought into that. But, I've been places, and I've told the stories before that when I was at Ohio State, we used to practice for Michigan all the time. And I was like, man, I don't know how we're going to beat Northwestern this week. And we wouldn't practice against Northwestern at all and end up winning 63-0. And but we were practicing for Michigan. But I that always made me nervous, and I never wanted to do that. But to answer the question, I think we need to run the ball better. We need to eliminate negative plays. And Georgia, has a lot of pressure defense that they run. I had to try to create a lot of negative plays, and they have like 9 players in the front 7 who has created a good number of negative plays. We got to do a good job in pass protection. We can't have negative plays on offense and get behind the sticks, because when you play a team like this, that's when they really can ramp it up on you, because they can play the situation. So those are the things that we've been working on, on offense, to have more balance. And to be able to protect the quarterback and give him a better chance to operate. And a lot of these things start with the offensive line, but the entire team needs to, play a little bit better against this kind of defensive team so that we don't give up a lot of negative plays. And on defense, they have so many personnel groups and so many multiples of formations that we got to get our players to get in the right place, make the right adjustments so we have the right numbers of people to be able to stop the run, because they have a really good balance as well, and they're good on special teams. So this is a complete team we're playing, so we need to be a complete team, and I think the players have done a pretty good job in preparation this week.
Cool. That's Coach Saban. We've got Nick Kelly from Tuscaloosa News standing with us. He's going to ask the next question as soon as we come back here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Now for the two-point conversion to win it for Alabama. Bryce in the shotgun. Gets the snap. Backpedals. Looks left. Throws. Touchdown. Two-point conversion. And Alabama wins. John Mechie on the grab. John Mechie on the grab. And Alabama has come from nowhere to defeat the Auburn Tigers in multiple overtimes. 4 overtimes, and John Mechie is the hero with help from many others. 24-22, the Crimson Tide wins the Iron Bowl of 2021.
Quite a finish to quite a day in Auburn as we welcome you back this segment of the SEC Championship Game Preview Show, sponsored by New Coke Zero Sugar. New look, improved taste. New Coke Zero Sugar. Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News, jump in with Coach Saban.
So we've been talking about all this prep and all the work that goes into getting ready for teams, and you've got such a rigorous schedule. I'm just curious, like, what do you do when you need an energy boost? Are you a coffee guy, a power nap? Like, what's your secret when you need a boost in your long schedule?
Well, it's not a power nap, I can tell you that. Miss Terry actually bought me a lazy boy and put it in my office and told me to take a power nap, and I tried to do it one day about a year ago, and my leg was shaking so fast I couldn't even sit still. So I said, I don't think this is working. So now I use that as it's for the queen of the recruit. Whoever the queen of the recruit is, like the mama, right. Whoever it might be, they get to sit in the lazy boy. So that's we had to adapt.
That's a great story. Great story. Let's talk, well, actually, now I look at the clock and we're up against the time for your final word. Our friends from Mercedes-Benz, as always, sponsoring your final word. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for our team, our fans, and everyone else, to support, this team who has been young and had shown a lot of resiliency and grit, played a lot of coast games. But it's an opportunity to play a good team that, not a lot of people think we're going to have success in. But I think, we've all can probably think of some occasion in our life where somebody told us that there was something that we couldn't do. I know when I was growing up, they told me, pumping gas at my dad's service station, you'll never graduate from college. You'll be back here working in the coal mines before long. And so there's always some occasion where you have a great opportunity to overcome adversity. And this is why this makes it a special game for our players. And our players haven't been in this situation very often because they usually go into the game with people expecting them to win. Right. And I think, sometimes that takes the fun out of it. But Georgia has a great team. This is a great opportunity for our team, and we're going to do everything we can to get our guys to step up, and I know our fans that are there will help us do that the best they can. And I want to thank everybody for all the support that you've given our team this year. The atmosphere in Bryant-Denny Stadium has been great. The student body has been great, and I know the players appreciate it. And, that special atmosphere, all the recruits that come here, want to be a part of that, and you create all that for us, and your support is what helps us help our players be successful, and we appreciate that more than you know.
Definitely. I want to thank you for taking the time on Thursday nights to be with us. This, of course, our final Thursday show. We will get together wherever our postseason travels take us. We'll have talk shows on the road, but thanks again for being with us every Thursday evening here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you, Eli. You've been the voice of Alabama for a long time, and I know people, when they look at that script day, you're a part of it. So
I appreciate that. And Nick Kelly, great to have you in Tuscaloosa, too.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a fun season. Going to be a fun game this weekend.
It will be. Coach, take care. Travel safely. We will see you in Atlanta. Coach Nick Saban and Nick Kelly joining us from the Tuscaloosa News. Listen, folks, if you're heading to Atlanta for the game, remember that T-Mobile is kicking off SEC Championship Weekend with a free concert tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss the first ever T-Mobile SEC Championship concert at the International Plaza right outside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You'll hear Chris Young, Mitchell Tenpenny, and Cameron Marlowe absolutely live. So we'll see you there. That's tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time as the folks at T-Mobile get our weekend underway with a big-time concert outside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tonight's show being brought to you in part by Alfa Insurance, Toyota, and Cook's Pest Control. We thank them for joining us as well. Nick Kelly, a final thought. What can the folks expect to read from you tomorrow and early Saturday? Saturday night takes care of itself. Game stories and analysis. What will we see when we open up the website or open up our newspapers tomorrow and Saturday morning?
Yeah, just all kinds of looking at this matchup. I mean, there's so many different angles to look at it. So it's looking at, okay, what can this offense do to have a shot against this defense? It's looking at things like what is this Georgia offense challenge, present challenge-wise to this Alabama defense. And so it's pretty much just looking at all these different angles in terms of just what it's going to take to get the win for the Tide.
How do you come up with these analyses? Are they all yours? Do you contact others and solicit their input? What is the approach that you take to formulate a column?
I think it's as simple as asking yourself, what do people want to read? Like, what are people interested in? What are they talking about? And trying to find ways to give the readers what they're interested in. Just because if they're interested in it, they're probably going to read it. If they're not, they're not. So. Yeah. It's as simple as that, but it also can be tricky just because there's so many things to write over a course of a season.
Sure. Well, listen, you travel safely to Atlanta. We'll see you over there, and thanks for joining us here on the show. Again, it's the first time we've had you on in your first year here in Tuscaloosa. We wish you all the best and many continued seasons of success.
Well, thanks a million for having me. Great to join you.
It's a pleasure. Nick Kelly joining us from the Tuscaloosa News. When we come back, we'll take a look ahead to what's on tap for the Crimson Tide this weekend. There's more coming your way as we continue on the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. We're live at Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.